So a couple of things that come up for me here is one is you mentioned like the movement piece being new and that being maybe how it was delivered, because the way I look at it is like when I was going to, I've gone to a lot of classes and they're talking about movement. So in that sense, it's not that movement isn't been happening or people haven't been trying to figure it out. When you look at like the competition versus the quote unquote tactical side and what's happening in these different, I guess, situations or environments, maybe is a better way to look at it. Well, people have been moving for a long time.
Absolutely.
And I think people recognize that obviously that's important. And you see the guy, some of the stories you hear is, my favorite story ever is John Dufresne, right? When he talks about the first time he went out to, and if you don't know who John Dufresne is, Kinetic Concepts, you should go check that out. John's an amazing dude, amazing shooter, amazing coach, just a solid human. So that's my plug for John. Love that dude. But that said, his first time out in competition, coming out of the military, doing some pretty high level stuff. His story is he got up there on the line and there was a little old lady with literally a Marlboro cigarette hanging off of her bottom lip and smoked him. Right. And that's a common tale, right? That we hear from folks that think they have an ability that then gets exposed when they move into these different environments and so forth. Not that the little old lady with the Marlboro hanging off of her bottom lip would have done well in his environment, but he was not doing well there. Yep. And he saw that obviously movement was important. She's floating around out there doing her stuff. Like, so movement matters, and movement is not new in the sense as it relates to, in the larger sense as it relates to shooting in any kind of environment. The point there being is that the way people were talking about it, that's where I saw disconnect. Is that you know what you're doing here, right? You know how you're doing it here, but may not have a deeper level understanding of how that actually happens physiologically and things that you can do to get better. You know what you did to get better, right? Or you learned that from somebody else and, you've talked about it because it helped you or whatever, but there's still a deeper underlying miss or disconnect, or let's just say like a deficiency in, like, there are some specifics that maybe if we articulate this a little bit better to people and they can put that into their training on the range or training in the gym, they could improve greatly on all things, both the movement and the shooting. And then obviously the shooting comes up, and which is where you're like, well, we need to explore this more and find out how it fits into our stuff. Well,
and I tell you too on that, like I've got a good story. A very respected unit, a very, very, very respected unit. We were recommended to them about going and doing the shooting and movement class. Guy was really nice to me via email. He was like, hey man, I'll get on a call with you. We set up a time. Cool. We get on a call, and this dude, I love this dude. Really. He is a very nice guy, but he is probably one of the more direct humans that I know.
Okay.
And I
think I know who you're talking about. So
we get on this call and he's like, hey man, appreciate your time. Went and looked at your site. I'm going to be honest. I don't think we need you. We've got human performance team here at our facility and we bring in world champion shooters. What can you bring? And I remember sitting there and I was like, gosh, damn. Like, we had just said, hello, how are you? Like, I didn't know him at that time. And I feel like his reaction is what the community was where we were. Is there was like all this movement, like go do that in your gym. You've got human performance people, you've got world-class shooters. And I appreciate the intro. I do kind of feel like maybe to a fault sometimes, but I'm very careful with the words I choose usually, or I try to be. And specifically towards myself, I'd say sometimes a little hard on myself. That said, in this moment, I could tell his personality. I was like, you know what? I'm going to send it. Like this guy
is a no bullshit dude, right?
This dude is not wanting me to be like humble or anything like that. And so I just fired back. I was like, sir, I will tell you straight up right now. You give me 2 days and you will learn something that you have not heard before.
I can appreciate that. Yeah.
And he literally, he was like, you know what? I appreciate the confidence. I'll give you a 2-day tryout. And then, so far this year, we've taught for them 7 times. So I would say that it worked its way out, and been super fortunate. Really enjoyed working with them. But I think that that's kind of where we were. Is like, I think early on we were trying to figure out where do we fit in this ecosystem, right? Mm-hmm. And I felt like they actually, that pressure testing, again, I've been super fortunate to train with a lot of guys. One of the things within IEP, obviously, you know this, a lot of people don't, but whenever we have instructors, once they teach, I believe it's 5, if I recall, when we put in the SOPs, you teach 5 or plus classes, we send you to a class because we value going outside and learning continuously because I think it's important that we are continuing to grow ourselves as shooters. But then how do we articulate that information, right? And then how do we make sure, because we teach, one of the comments, I don't fully agree with this, but I've heard many people say like, shooting hasn't changed in 20 years. You just got to put the bullets where you're aiming kind of concept, right?
Fundamentally, it hasn't.
Yeah, like
right.
I get what you're saying, but I think you're missing a lot of things here, right?
There's been a lot of evolution.
So, 100%.
You can't say that and then go, well, then if nothing has changed, then why are things happening so much faster?
Right.
People are more accurate.
That's a way oversimplifying the conversation. But that said, I feel like as guys talk about different shooting instructors, it's like, yeah, but what do you bring different? Which I do think is maybe some of the beef or the frustration with other instructors in the industry. It's like, well, that's just for show. You're just trying to be different. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes sense to me because, and I think it comes from a lot of different places. There's the jealousy piece, like somebody's being successful out there. There is the dismissive piece of, well, this dude's never done the job or doesn't know what he's like, he's not a world-class shooter. So automatically this is a non-conversation because he hasn't quote unquote qualified by my standard or whatever. And then I think the other piece is just a misunderstanding, like doesn't truly know. You haven't trained with that person. You've only heard through third or fourth party information or whatever. It's like, it gets a little convoluted. I mean, that's kind of how I got, that's why I started asking the same questions you were having and started going to the direct sources and going, 100%. Hey man, I know shit about shit here. Like, so, but I know how to ask questions and I promise I won't waste your time with asking the next level question. If you can just get me past this one part, I think I know where to go with this kind of thing. So.
Dude, and I think a lot of the guys respect that and appreciate like, hey, I am trying to take it to a deeper level. They want to see that commitment, I would say.
Yes.
But going back to kind of what we're saying, I think sometimes people get frustrated with one another. There is definitely the jealousy, but I also just think that dude, that's just, you don't need that. That's a marketing tool. You know what I'm saying? I feel like that sometimes get kicked in. I think that we've been super fortunate on what we're doing. I think you made a great call earlier that I will echo. There's a lot of people that have had movement in their shooting courses. Like we did not create movement.
Right.
However, I think we've done a very good job of hyper-focusing on the movement, how to do the movement at a higher level. Now with that, I do think has come shooting as well. Because again, kind of going back to Matt, I think early on, I just saw myself as like, hey guys, don't just focus on the movement piece, right? And he was kind of like, dude,
don't get out of your lane.
What are you doing? Well, no. Matt didn't say, that's how I was. Correct.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah.
That's how I was. And I think Matt was kind of like, actually, well, his words were a lot meaner, but he said, don't be an idiot. Again, his was worse. But in a nutshell, it was like, dude, no, you need to be teaching shooting. And I think even then, I'm not trying to dig too deep into what he said, but I think looking back on it, knowing what I know now, it's like, yeah, that's a really important piece because that has opened up so much about what we do and understanding the vision, the biomechanics, the movement, all the pieces, even at the upper half of the body, where I think early on we focused on the lower half of the body, but now it's like, yeah, but how does that impact your vision? How does a lower body impact your vision, your processing speed visually versus mechanically? Like there's so many pieces and hey, lo and behold, I understand anatomy physiology pretty well. I just spent a lot of time in neuro, biomechanics, a lot of different things. A lot of other guys haven't. And so through that, I do think it's allowed me to kind of nerd out. And there's pieces that are very applicable to when we teach. And there's pieces that, although that it's not appropriate to teach maybe in the class, it's very helpful for me to know.